We've got a comfortable second place here. We can hound Ferrari all we like. So why not do that and sit and irritate Ferrari for a bit? You know, you're still going to get 8 points. You're still going to earn all those millions of pounds. You're still going to be able to chase better sponsors at the end of the season because of it. Your driver's still going to get on the podium. I mean, at the moment, the sponsors seem to change every time. The only one that's really stayed definitely the same as Kingfisher. The sponsors range from Kingfisher to AVG antivirus. You know.
Really, I didn't know they advertised.
Yeah, they've got advertising on the Force India, and it's like, well, really, you could do better than that.
Okay, so I get that. But it all seems terribly bureaucratic. I mean, perhaps I should go across to NASCAR or something like that. But I mean, I'm a good old-fashioned let's race kind of guy. It's a race. It's not what position am I financially best in. I mean, in all terms of wisdom, I think yes, it was probably better for Fishkeller to stay in second. Because you know, if he had gone to overtake at any point, then Raikkonen would have just clicked his little red button and gone, screw you, nipped off. But I don't know, it's kind of, you see this a lot these days, especially with people like Renault. It's all very bureaucratic. It's all, you know, this person. I think it was Renault, not last year, but a couple of years ago. They were like, they stopped specific drivers from winning on their team, so from winning races on their team, so another driver could overtake, and then they'd get more points.
Yeah, that's Ferrari.
Was that Ferrari?
Yeah, Ferrari were that well known for it. They got in trouble because at the American Grand Prix, over about 5 laps, Barrichello lost 25 seconds to Michael Schumacher. But as soon as Schumacher got past, Barrichello's problem was fine, and he was able to stay with him, no problem at all.
But that happens such a lot these days. I'm a good old-fashioned, like, race kind of person. I mean, it is a race, not a competition of who can have the better sponsors in what position. But I don't know, it just didn't feel very competitive in the Belgian Grand Prix.
Well, I could be wrong. You know, sponsors might not have had anything to do with it. And I mean, next year it's going to be even better because they're going to be, what's it called, capped at how much they can spend. So it's not going to matter what sponsors really they have next year because they'll be limited to what money they can use. So I mean, like I said, I could be wrong, and it could have nothing to do with sponsors. It could just be the fact that yeah, they were quick, but they just couldn't get past the Ferrari. I mean, if I was Raikkonen and I was driving along and I saw Fisichella, as soon as I wouldn't be using the curves most of the lap if I didn't have to. I'd be saving it until he got a bit close and then just like tapping it and just getting the extra few yards back or the extra tenth here and there. I wouldn't be like, oh, going up Eau Rouge, let's use the boost for no reason when he sat behind us.
Yeah, true. If I was Raikkonen, then it would be... actually, if I was Raikkonen, I'd probably be a bit of an asshole about it. I'd maybe let Fisichella get to within overtaking distance, and as soon as he starts trying to overtake, just hit the button and just go, ha ha ha, screw you. But then again, I'm not a very nice person, so... But yeah, I get that.
Situation, I'd just crash into you. I'd just be like, right, you're going to sod about, crash.
Oh, that's mean. Let's have a little talk about the. We're getting on. We're at 25 minutes here. Let's have a little talk about the circuit itself, because this circuit is probably the most favoured circuit by the Grand Prix races. I mean, in terms of public opinion, I think Monaco is probably the most publicly favoured circuit. But in terms of drivers, I think the Belgium circuit is probably the most favourite, and indeed probably the hardest.
I think it's definitely one of the hardest, probably just behind Monaco, but Monaco's purely because you've got some high-speed bits, but then most of the lap you're in slow corners. I mean, what is it? what I know as Low's hairpin, which I have no idea what it's called anymore. It's 30 mile an hour in a Formula 1 car, if that. And then you've got going through Low's tunnel, you're talking 100 odd. So, you've got large braking things. But I mean, Spa, if for no other reason, is difficult because it's so long. I mean, there's not many other circuits in the air that take near enough 1 minute 50 seconds to lap. I mean, you've got Monaco, which is about 120, and you've got, I think the closest is possibly Brazil, maybe. But, I mean, apart from that, you've got nothing that takes that long. It's 7 kilometres long, total race distance of 308 kilometres. You've got the first corner, which is pretty slow. You've got Eau Rouge, which has seen some of the worst accidents.
It is a very famous corner, that.
I mean, the first corner to Eau Rouge saw the big accident in '98 caused by David Coulthard, which brought off millions and millions and millions of pounds worth of Formula 1 cars, and I think it was 11 cars were rendered unusable.
I think that crash was entitled the most expensive crash in Formula 1 history.
Well, yeah, it was I mean, some of the teams had both their cars damaged that badly that they were just out. And they didn't have spare cars, so they couldn't use the spare car, or they'd had accidents over the weekend, so they were already using the spare car. But I mean, the funniest part of that for me was watching all the drivers run back to the garage. And then, up at the top of Eau Rouge, you've got the long straight to Lecombe, which saw, I'm sure, is quite possibly the most amazing looking overtaking manoeuvre ever, with Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher going along to Lecombe, coming up to Ricardo Zonta in his BAR, and you're like, what's going to happen? Are they going to back off and then overtake him, or are they just going to overtake on one side of him? And neither of that happened. Hakkinen went left, Schumacher went right, Hakkinen overtakes both of them into Lecombe. So, and then you've got what's possibly the most famous part of the circuit, the bus stop at the very end, which they've now totally ruined. And that's seen some action over the years. So, I mean, you've got a pretty historic racetrack. It's been holding, I think it's held 58 races over its time. So, I mean, it's been around for years. Everyone knows it. Although I think it was off the calendar for a year or two a while back. But, I mean, I was outraged at that. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever.
It is a particularly fun race circuit. I mean, what most people don't realise about it as well is it's very hilly, especially the long straight. I think it's the long straight up to Lecombe. It's a massive hill, and it's just some colossal work. So you're going up that hill like 170 miles an hour. Well, about 330 kilometers an hour. It's easier for me to do it like that. And then, you go around Lecombe, and then basically the rest of the track is all downhill again. And I'm not quite sure what kind of pressure that would put on a driver, or even what kind of effect that would have on the speeds of a Formula 1 car,
Well, you're talking lots of pressure. I mean, you're probably going to have at least 2G maybe going up that hill. I tell you what I'd love to see, actually, is I'd love to see them do it the other way around and come down that hill into
See, I was thinking that during the race. I was like, that would be an awesome hill just to go down instead of up.
Some of the tracks would be quite good if they did that. But anyway, I think it's time we moved on and give our little preview towards the Monza Grand Prix.
Oh yes. This is probably my most hated circuit. It is so boring and so flat and so straight. I mean, Ferrari should be on form for this one, I reckon. They're good at their straights, maybe with Brawn in there as well. But in terms of excitement, it's got nothing on Spa really.